Тут так непонятно. В Zoom мне ссылку-то дали, а здесь только юнесовские сидят, или что просто они еще дали ссылку и на YouTube, что там трансляция идет.
Написала Unesco, вот тебе поэтому, как сотруднику выбежать.
Тут вообще ушел, стул только стоит. Еще не отключила ничего.
Сушане тоже скинули на YouTube. Мой вебинар завтрашний обернал.
Ну так на YouTube, значит, смотри.
Can you mute the participant? Is that possible?
Я не знаю, что там. Тебе мешает, да, это? Мешает тебе это? А? Ну, это сейчас там настраивается что-то, конференция.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kathleen Ferrier. I am the chair of the Dutch UNESCO Commission, and I want to give you all a warm welcome. We are grateful to have so many viewers this afternoon to learn about this wonderful project, Living Heritage and Education. And we are happy to host this event after we hosted in February 2019 the very successful gathering on this topic in Rotterdam. It is so good to see that, thanks to so many dedicated people, the development and all the energy that comes from this inspiring project. And we are especially excited about the collaboration here in this project with UNESCO and the EU. A warm welcome to all of you. If you have any questions during this afternoon, where you will hear speeches, see videos, learn about what's happening in different parts of Europe, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. At the end of the session, we will find time to submit them. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Susanna Schnutgen, the head of Capacity Building and Heritage Policies Unit, Living Heritage Entity at UNESCO. And after Susanna Schnutgen has spoken, Mrs. Dorota Nigge, the Special Policy Officer, Cultural and Creative Sectors at the Directorate General for Education and Culture at the European Commission, will take the floor. So first of all, may I give the opportunity to Susanna Schnutgen to share her thoughts with us. Please go ahead, Susanna.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you so much for this very warm welcome. And it is really a pleasure to be here again in an event hosted by the Netherlands National Commission for UNESCO. You rightly made the reference to the wonderful workshop we had in Rotterdam, which was part of this very inspiring and innovative UNESCO European Union project on engaging youth for an inclusive and sustainable Europe, and in particular this component on learning and teaching with living heritage in schools. I would also like to greet my colleague from the European Union, Ms. Dorota Nigge, who you already presented. Dorota, I really wish to express our sincere thanks to the European Union for the wonderful partnership we've been having in implementing this project that we will hear so much about today. I would also like to welcome and greet everyone from around Europe who's here with us today, whether teachers or NGOs and people who work in national commissions who help with this work on living heritage and education. For UNESCO, this thematic has become very important, quite a priority, and we have a larger program on safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in formal and non-formal education, which we were requested also to implement, and which has great support from UNESCO member states and states parties to the Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. And this program recognizes fully that intangible cultural heritage or living heritage and education intersect and can be mutually beneficial and supportive. So learning with living heritage contributes directly to key concerns such as learning to appreciate cultural diversity, to understand the role of culture and development, to develop peace and global citizenship, and of course, to learn to live more sustainably. And these key issues are all key concerns of the Sustainable Development Goals that have been actually adopted at the international level by the international community. And the Sustainable Development Goal 4 is on quality education and lifelong learning. And there's one target, 4.7, which talks about all these important concerns I've just been raising, and which are also so key concerns in the European context. So indeed, living heritage, education, and sustainable development are intimately linked. Communities have always found ways to systematize and transmit to future generations their knowledge and worldviews and life skills, often in response to the changes they were facing, and to improve their well-being and sometimes even their survival. And it is this rich, intangible cultural heritage which offers so much content and methods for intergenerational learning, schooling, and lifelong learning. It provides context-specific content and pedagogy, as we will see with the demonstrations of how this can be done here today. So there's the pedagogy to bring schools and communities closer together. And it offers communities, groups, and individuals a sense of identity and continuity. And thereby it can help to build what we call resilient and more peaceful and inclusive societies. So what we are trying to do is to leverage intangible cultural heritage to make education more relevant and the education outcomes more relevant as well, and also probably more creatively attainable. You probably all have very deep experiences that you had in terms of living and learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm sure many of you would agree that, in fact, living heritage has been one source of resilience and one source of solidarity and inspiration for many of us and many groups and communities during these difficult times. So maybe that is one more reason even to make sure that schools of today know why we can value intangible cultural heritage in educational processes and what it can contribute, and how education system can actually help to safeguard intangible cultural heritage. Dear participants, maybe I would like to say one more word about intergenerational transmission, because it is at the center of intangible cultural heritage safeguarding. And it is a very creative and dynamic interactive process through which living heritage is constantly recreated and passed on from one generation to the next. We need education programs to play an important role in strengthening the modes and methods of transmission which are recognized by communities. And this is what this project has actually been doing. And you will see it's very impressive how it has been done and how those who participated speak about it. It is clear today that the work we have done has already started to create a deeper understanding of the role of intangible cultural heritage and its importance in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals that were adopted at international level, and in particular, Sustainable Development Goal 4. So it is wonderful that with the results of this very successful UNESCO EU project, we have a lot to share. You will discover today a survey, you will cover case studies, and also very practical tools, a resource kits that can help you, those of you who are teachers or educators, to actually help us do this work and integrate or infuse living heritage in education. So it is an absolute pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the session where my colleague Helena Drobna, who is the project officer at our side for this project, will actually introduce you to all these very exciting results of this project. Thank you again, and enjoy the session.
Thank you so much, Susanna, for your inspiring words. Please, Dorota, take the floor.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Thank you very much, Susanna. Good afternoon from Brussels. On behalf of the European Commission, I would like to welcome all teachers, students, representatives of educational organizations participating in today's webinar. We are very grateful to UNESCO for the wonderful work that have been done to bring living heritage closer to youngsters. And you will see the resources kit to be presented today is beautiful and useful. And I hope that teachers all around Europe will be able to use it in the curricular and extracurricular activities in their schools, in your schools. And thank you very much to UNESCO team in Paris, and in particular Helena and Susanna. It was already said, we had a great cooperation, and it's a pleasure to work on the same level and feeling the same vibes. I also have special thanks to the UNESCO Netherlands Commission, to Kathleen and Marike, who host today's events and who also hosted the event in Rotterdam. And it's really great to feel you on board and to have the very great inputs into this work. Just to recall, the idea of a joint UNESCO EU project relates to the European Year of Cultural Heritage, which was held in 2018, where at that time we had focused very much on engagement for heritage. We also had other priorities which are very much related, such as sustainability of heritage, protection and innovation for heritage, but engaging children and youth in the heritage-related activities was one of the key components of the year, be it in the school environment, through intergenerational dialogue that Susanna has already mentioned, and also through volunteering for heritage, because as you know, we have in the EU the European Solidarity Corps, and here we very much focused on involving young people into volunteering activities. But learning about and with intangible cultural heritage that surrounds us in our daily lives means learning about things that we have in common. And that's for me the essence. From Austria to Spain, from Finland to Greece, and from Cyprus to the Netherlands. And I think that the joint UNESCO EU project helps raising awareness of our common cultural heritage, of our common roots and multiple identities united in diversity. As you know, that's the motto of the European Union. And this is very significant for Europe and for Europeans. So I'm very much looking forward to today's presentations of two pilot projects showing how teachers integrate living heritage in their lessons. And I congratulate you all, because I know that you have done marvelous projects in your schools, and we would be very happy to share the information of your work with the networks of teachers which we have at the EU level. Some of you may be already involved in the e-twinning network and our SchoolNet under Erasmus Plus program. This is something I think we have the potential to go in depth in the future. I wish you good exchanges today and best of luck for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dorota. And thank you both for pointing out how this innovative project, this EU UNESCO engagement for heritage, has been able to engage young people, and to so important, especially in these days, to show how we can discover what we have in common. So thank you so much for giving your frame to this afternoon. Now we will move on to a short film on one of the pilot experiences in schools. It is a film made in Belgium, and it is about teaching and learning with living heritage, the Japanese hanga printing in art and math classes. So Let's watch this movie, and may I ask Marieke to show it to us?
My name is Rembert. I'm 26. I teach science, technology and global citizenship at Campus Comenius in Koekelberg in Brussels, Belgium. The school opened just 2 years ago. We are a young team striving for innovation in education. Our approach is based on blended and self-guided learning. We do our best to adapt to our students' needs and to today's global challenges. Last year, together with 9 other European teachers, I was selected for a Unesco European Union project on culture and education. The idea was to help us gain understanding of intangible cultural heritage and how we can bring it into the classroom. The project started with a training workshop involving both teachers and students. At the end of it, we worked in teams to prepare for the next step, creating original projects to implement back in our schools. During the workshop, I realized that we first needed to know more about the cultural backgrounds of our students, so we conducted an online survey. The results showed that the grandparents of our 140 students were born in 37 different countries across the globe. Then we organized an exhibition where students brought objects from home that reflected the culture of their family. The result was impressive. One student brought coffee beans from Indonesia, another a small figurine from his grandfather's community in Congo. We also had delicious orange cake from Portugal, Syrian soap, many beautiful jalabas or Moroccan dresses, and so on. We had no idea how culturally rich and diverse our students were.
Hallo, ik ben Jael en ik heb dit boek meegebracht omdat mijn grootouders en mijn vader van Mons komen. Dat ligt in België. En dat is een heel groot feest dat zich bevindt op de Grote Markt. En er is ook dit, dat is een stok met een scherp punt eraan en dan dood Saint-Georges de draak. Zo. Oui.
Je m'appelle Clovis. Aujourd'hui, j'ai ramené une kora. Une kora, c'est un instrument qui vient du pays de mon père, le Togo. Et on peut en jouer comme ça.
Je m'appelle Nour. Aujourd'hui, j'ai ramené une djellaba qui vient de Oujda. Ma maman et toute sa famille viennent aussi de Oujda. J'aime beaucoup cette djellaba parce qu'on peut la porter à l'intérieur comme à l'extérieur et c'est aussi une djellaba pour les filles.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Chanève et aujourd'hui j'ai ramené des bananes frites qu'on mange souvent au Nigeria et on les mange souvent pendant des fêtes ou pendant des mariages et c'est souvent avant le grand repas et c'est pour ouvrir l'appétit.
Ik ben Philippe. Dit zijn heel lekkere Tsjechische en Duitse koekjes samen. Omdat mijn mama is uit Tsjechië en uit Duitsland. En ja, dit bakken we voor Kerstmis. Deze zijn een beetje hard, maar de andere zijn lekkerder, denk ik. Ja, deze is lekkerder.
My name is Maori and I'm 12. For the exhibition organized at our school, I chose some samples of my grandfather's hanga printing. Hanga is an ancient Japanese printing technique that uses creative drawings, woodblocks and different types of ink. I really like it. Every month my grandfather sends us hanga calendars. He makes around 50 of those each month for his family and friends. I have 2 favorites, one representing a rowing competition and another one of me wearing swimming goggles while cooking. I feel very close to my grandfather even though he lives in Japan, some 6,000 miles away from here. His calendars make me think of him, his hands, his gestures, his presence. These calendars have become his own way to keep us all bound together as a family, as we now all live in different cities across the globe. It keeps us connected to Japanese culture, which is very important to him and to us. My grandfather and I are very proud Hanga printing was chosen for this project. We use it in different ways. During art classes, we try to replicate the entire process. We created designs, cut shapes, not in wood blocks but in linoleum squares, and printed them on worksheets. Each student could create their own drawings. We also looked at Hanga through mathematics. Our teacher used the designs to teach us two geometric transformations, translation and rotation. We all enjoyed it and it helped us to understand abstract notions of mathematics. Our living heritage can help us learn more easily subjects at school. Looking at all of this, I can say I'm even prouder of my living heritage now than before. But above all, I find it so important to know more about our cultures and what we can learn from each other. Our living heritage tells us so much about where we come from.
Such an impressive presentation that shows us the cultural richness, the richness of diversity in one classroom in Belgium. And for each and every student to become aware of the intergenerational connection through intangible cultural heritage. Thank you so much for Belgium for making this very inspiring movie and for showing it to us today. So now I would like to announce the presentation of the joint UNESCO EU project. And for that, I'm honored and very pleased to introduce Helena Drobna. She is the program specialist and regional officer for Europe in the Living Heritage entity at UNESCO. And she is responsible for this project. Please, Helena, take the floor.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. I hope you enjoyed the little presentation, and I will tell you a little bit more now about how we got there. Just a second. Just a second. Okay. So, as you have already heard bits and pieces from Susanna, Dorota, and Kathleen about this joint UNESCO EU dialogue project, I would like to explain you a little bit more about it. The project is called Engaging Youth for an Inclusive and Sustainable Europe, and the idea behind it was to strengthen the connection between young people, heritage, and sustainable development. It was developed, as Dorota already mentioned, in the follow-up, or it was developed under the 2018 European Year of Cultural Heritage, and it was implemented as of 1st of January 2019 as the legacy or as the follow-up, as the lessons learned from the European Year of Cultural Heritage. As I said, it was a joint EU-UNESCO project, which is kind of a special thing because there are many projects where UNESCO and EU cooperates together. But I felt that this time we were really working together hand in hand with Dorota and her team, and we went through the entire process together. So we really worked together. And I have to say that what we heard from some of the teachers who participated in the project was that they have worked on many European Union projects. They have worked on many UNESCO projects, but this is the first one which is addressing the issues that are covered by both institutions, that are important for both institutions, which are culture and education together. And this was one of the added values that came out of this joint project. What we try to do with this project is to encourage and stimulate young people to explore their own cultural heritage and to participate in its safeguarding. And
Elena,
yes?
Elena, sorry to interrupt you, but we cannot hear you properly. Perhaps you can try to speak more directly into the microphone.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I will change my, if you allow me a second. Is this better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Please
much.
go ahead.
So we were looking for new innovative ways on how to create this connection between young people, heritage, education, how to make young people more aware about their own heritage and how to make them more actively participate in this process. The project has two components. One component was focusing on young heritage professionals, which is actually the one you see on the bottom, the component 2. And here we were trying to strengthen the connection between tangible heritage and intangible heritage in the framework of a European Young Heritage Professionals Forum, which was held as planned and foreseen in April 2019. The other project, which is the one we are discussing here today, is the component 1, which was focusing on raising awareness for and learning with intangible cultural heritage in European schools. Here we were looking at what are the ways, or what could be the ways potentially, how we could integrate living heritage within the existing curricula in European schools. It was a pilot project because we were testing a methodology that we proposed, and we were trying to come up with solutions, with proposals, with ways how we could do it. The project was scheduled for about 1.5 years, but because of COVID, those who were eagerly waiting for the results have to be very patient, and we are happy to present the results to you right now. So why at all are we talking about teaching and learning with living heritage? Susanna has already mentioned this. This is more of a recalling what she said. On one hand, it contributes to achieving quality education, which is, of course, Sustainable Development Goal 4, in particular target 4.7. which is talking about the appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. And as you will see through the little projects, we are exactly in the center of this target. But on the other hand, this is the education part of it. On the other hand, we have the living heritage part of it, where teaching and learning with living heritage contributes significantly to safeguarding living heritage through formal and non-formal education. As you may know, the 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of the Living Heritage, of the Intangible Cultural Heritage, is directly addressing the issue of formal or non-formal education in the Article 2.3. So formal and non-formal education are seen as one of the ways how we can safeguard intangible cultural heritage. Intangible cultural heritage in school-based education also, and we saw it with this project, improves learning outcomes because children are young people are more interested. They find it more relevant because it connects theory and real life. What we saw, for example, and I really appreciated this quote from one of the young participants of the students who said, "I love mathematics and I'm really passionate about mathematics, but I never thought it could be actually useful in real life." And as Olympia will show you in a while, you will see that there were many other lessons learned like this. It also encourages multidisciplinary approaches, and you will see that we rarely integrated living heritage in one subject. It was always going through several subjects, be it mathematics, physics, civic education, sports, crafts, arts, etc. You will see the wide range of subjects in which we were able, or we, the teachers, were able to integrate a living heritage. It promotes students' well-being, and this was, for example, something we heard from the pilot project in Greece, where students were very stressed because they were preparing for their classes, for their exams, and they used what they learned in their physical education. The project was based on rebetiko, a traditional dance from Greece. And they were using this dance that they learned to distress, to relax before the exams, and they really appreciated it. It cultivates respect and appreciation for cultural diversity and creates space for everyone to participate. In the Belgian project that you had the chance to just saw, you just saw the film, one of the participants said, "I never could talk about my culture. I was kind of ashamed, but this project gave me the space to speak proudly about my own culture and to share it with the others. And this common sharing was very much appreciated among the children." It helps young people to explore their own identity. It strengthens dialogue between generations. And as you will see, maybe from, for example, the Spanish film, we worked about, the project was about Omerdero, which is one of the carnival characters. And children came home and spoke to their parents and grandparents. And one of the grandfather came up with a picture of him dressed as Omerdero 70 years ago. And they started this discussion around the carnival, about how it used to be and how they enjoyed it. And through this discussion, it revived the connections and strengthened the links. It also explores local solutions to global environmental problems. And I think we will see these issues in several of our projects. What did we do? We started with a survey because, of course, when we started this project, we didn't know what's actually happening on the ground. What are the teachers already doing? So we thought the most important thing would be to find out, to ask them, are you already integrating living heritage in your teaching in schools? And how are you integrating it? So we have launched a pilot study on the current practices of teaching about and with intangible heritage. Here I just do a parenthesis. When we are talking about teaching about living heritage, what we mean is that you introduce an intangible cultural heritage element. For example, you introduce to students what is it Christmas and what are the celebration, etc. Usually you would do it either as an extracurricular activity or in one of the topics you would basically introduce the element. When we are talking about teaching with living heritage, this is what the children did, for example, in mathematics. They took the intangible cultural heritage element and used it, or with the help of this element, they taught or they learned what they were anyway supposed to learn, which is the transformation in mathematics, etc. And I'm sure Olympia will tell you more. We collaborated with the Unesco Chair on Education, Citizenship and Cultural Diversity at the Lusofona University in Lisbon. And we addressed the ISP-Net Schools, which is the associated project, UNESCO Associated Schools project, in the 28 member states of the European Union, because back then they were 28. We also addressed the UK as one of the member states back then. We targeted children from 11 to 18 years old, and to introduce what are we doing and why are we doing it, we organized the initial webinar for the national ISP-Net coordinators, and then we asked them to help us to disseminate the survey, translate it for their schools, help them to fill in the questionnaire, and to get back with the replies. I think for this kind of survey, getting 500 replies from 2,000 schools is a very good response rate. And we have some of the findings and recommendations that came out of this survey. And here you can see some of them. For example, teachers highlighted the need for continuous training if we want them to integrate living heritage in education, they need to know how to do this, and they would need some training on these issues. They would appreciate to have networks with other colleagues who are doing similar work so that they can learn from each other how to do it. And I hope with events like this one, we are strengthening or providing at least partially for this kind of things. And they have also asked for online resources and that would guide them in their project and for the use of new technologies. And we will show you how we did these in the second part of the presentation. The survey, I'm not going to go more into the recommendations because, as you know, the official launch of the survey and the materials is on the 29th of June from 3 to 5, and you are all invited to this presentation. Today, we will focus rather on the materials for teachers. How did we develop these? We decided to focus on 10 pilot projects. We have first selected 10 pilot project schools from the ASP.NET network through a public call for proposals. And we selected school teams which were composed of one teacher and one student based on a project proposal that was submitted by the teachers. We have selected 2 UNESCO-trained facilitators from our networks of facilitators, also through an open call. And these facilitators have accompanied the teachers in developing their project. So we didn't leave them alone, but we helped them to formulate the project, to implement them, etc. We organized an initial workshop in October 2019 to train, to provide the basic information about living heritage. How can you integrate it? What are we talking about when we are talking about teaching with living heritage, etc.? During this workshop in Vienna, teachers started to prepare their pilot projects. Then they implemented them when they get back home, and we met together in Rotterdam in March 2020 in order to talk about how did it go, what did we learn from these experiences, etc. And from there on, we developed the resource kit for teachers. The 10 school pilot projects were very interesting because they were very diverse, and you will hear about it later. We had living heritage integrated in core curriculum subjects such as civic education, computer-aided design, geography, mathematics, physics, etc., but also in extracurricular activities. They were thematic excursions, they went to visit bearers and their ateliers, they participated in events such as carnivals, they organized school events. We also used new technologies, in particular telephone applications, in integrating living heritage in education, and Olympia is one of those teachers who did this experience. We also addressed, these projects address a wide range of cross-cutting issues such as cultural diversity and intercultural dialogue, intergenerational dialogue, etc. And we also included learners with special education needs, such as learners with physical disabilities, with autistic spectrum disorder, etc., which has actually shown that this kind of approach can be applied in any kind of school to any kind of audience, and you can create a very nice space to integrate all children together. What we have developed based on all these experiences and UNESCO's previous work is something that we call the resource kit for teachers. Resource kit because it's composed of several components, and I will do another presentation on this one later on. We have a practical guidebook, we have case studies, we have practical tools, and we have a series of 3 films. 3 of them are long films like the one you saw, and 3 of them are shorter films like the one you will hopefully be able to see now. Perfect. Oh, pardon. So once we have finalized these materials, and this is the point where we are going to organize a series of webinars so that we can present them and encourage teachers to use them. First of these webinars is today. Another one is will be held on Wednesday in German. So if you have colleagues speaking German, please do invite them there. There are others foreseen in Greek, Slovak, Czech, and I'm sure there will be many more. We are also organizing one that will focus specifically on teaching science, basic science with living heritage, because it seems to be a subject of great interest to science teachers. And the official presentation, as I already mentioned, will be on 29 June. We will have interpretation in English, French, and Spanish, and you are all most welcome to this official presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Helena, for taking us on this journey and on the achievements with regards to the topic of this afternoon, raising awareness on and learning with the living heritage in EU schools. And it's so good you pointed out, well, you have shared some of the outcomes already, but it's good to be aware that the official presentation of the full project results will be on the 29th of June. And so you're all invited there. It's also interesting to hear how these 10 pilot projects were distinguished. And I'm very happy that we can dive into 2 of these pilot projects this afternoon, and one is from Cyprus, Greece, and one is from the Netherlands. But let us start with the project that was developed in Greece, in Cyprus, and therefore I would like to introduce to you the project that was guided by Olympia. The pilot project involved 2 different elements of living heritage that are deeply tied to Cyprus history and the identity of the communities concerned. Lacework craftsmanship in Lefkara and the preparation of carob sweets in Anoira. These elements were integrated in extracurricular activities and later in math classes, helping students to determine the ratio of the volumes of the hemispheres with respect to the ratio of the radii, the slope of a line and the angle between 2 intersecting lines. And after that, we will have the presentation from the Netherlands. And I will, I think, already introduce Zeno to you. In the Netherlands, the polder model, consensus decision-making, is part of the curricula for both economics and social studies. It is based on the process of reaching consensus within a group through social dialogue. This concept was integrated into lessons on the Dutch system of decision-making, the history and structure of the various organizations in the polder model, and the relationship between employers and employees. Addressed in the context of living heritage, the polder model also helped to strengthen students' capacity to formulate arguments. New active pedagogies were introduced, such as role-playing and making learning even more interesting and engaging for students. So, may I ask Olympia Orfanidou from Cyprus to present her project.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm talking to you from my village, Anoia, where one of the projects, the pilot projects, took place. I'm going to present to you what we have been doing here in Cyprus. I cannot emphasize enough on how thankful I am for this experience, for taking part in this training, because it has helped me greatly in connecting two of my great loves, mathematics and ICH. So to start with, the first project, we created a film on location where we matched together the making of products using traditional carob syrup and carob powder, and the comparison of hemispheres in order to find the ratio of the volumes of the hemispheres with respect to the ratio of the radii. So basically what we did, the students visited Mrs. Arsinoi, who is making traditional recipes using carob syrup, and they created truffles made of carob with the help of Miss Arsinoi, and they malted this mixture in hemispheres, and assuming that the density of the mixture was uniform, they compared the two mixtures in order to compare their volumes. And in fact, as it came out, empirically speaking, the ratio of the volumes was equal to the ratio of the radii to the power of 3, which is actually true when we come to mathematics, but we actually determined this empirically, and it was correct to 2 decimal places. So to be honest, the children involved were very excited to be a part of the whole idea of filmmaking and participating and then showing the film in the classroom, and from then on discussing actual mathematics, but at the same time tasting the trifles, because we took them in the classroom and they tasted the final product. So the next project was using Lefkara laces, and we actually visited Lefkara village once again, this time students who were not really great fans of mathematics, who were skipping classes of mathematics, were actually involved, and they visited the village. They created a short film of how the Lefkara laces were embroidered, and then from then on we introduced the picture of the Lefkara lace in GeoGebra, which, as we know, is freeware we can get from the internet, and using the shapes on the lace, we determined the slope, the slope of a line. We found the angle between 2 lines, and we actually discussed whether the shapes on the embroideries were squares or the angles between the intersecting lines were actually less than 90 degrees, and we tried to determine what could have gone wrong, because to be honest, the angles came out as 91.2 degrees. We can also use the same shapes in a variety of mathematical concepts. We can calculate shaded areas with these shapes, or discuss parallelograms and determine what the qualities of a parallelogram is. So basically, these were the 2 pilot projects we developed during the course of the project. between the meeting in Vienna and the meeting in Rotterdam. But to be honest, what was the greatest outcome from this project for us here in Cyprus and in my school, Agios Antonios Lyceum, is that we liked what we were doing so much, teachers and students alike, that we actually decided that we truly wanted to continue doing so, to introduce ICH in science and math lessons. And as we know, the greatest success of a project is the impact that the project has on the participants, and the impact that this project had on us was great. And at the same time, how sustainable a project is, again, very important to notice. And we have to say that moving on from this project, we came to realize that the opportunities to introduce, to match ICH with math are endless. We have so many opportunities to do so. And starting from the meeting in Rotterdam, Robert from the Comenius campus in Belgium and I decided that our schools wanted to actually continue using ICH in our math and science classes. And we have come up with several ways to do so during this last year after the meeting in Rotterdam. And I think it's very important to emphasize on the fact that we continue doing so, because it pinpoints the great success of the project, of integrating ICH in school-based education. So let's see what else we have done. We have applied, and now we have an Erasmus Plus project, which is doing exactly what we were trained to do by the facilitators in Vienna. For example, this year, on this year's International Day of Mathematics, the P Day, we had a festival where we presented traditional desserts from our Cypriot culture, starting with the letter P. And we have handed out in 3 high schools close to our school, bagels, traditional bagels in P shape, containing a card with all the formulae we use in mathematics in school, which contain pi. So this way, again, we matched ICH with mathematics. I always come across people asking me, how is it possible to match mathematics with ICH? And I say that we can match just about anything as long as we have the right tour guide, the right means to do so. For example, here we have 2 elements from our culture, which is the dry walls on a hillside, and we have the loom. And basically, as we can see, if you can read this, we can come up with a story where someone is playing the role of our tour guide, who's gonna enable us. It's gonna be like a passport too, which gonna give us the master key where we can open all the doors where behind are the ICH elements we want to include in our lesson. Here, for example, we have within 2 paragraphs, we have 2 mathematical questions. The first one involves dry hills, and it matches dry hills with arithmetic series problems. And the second one, it matches weaving on a loom with geometric progression problems. Since we are hosted by the Netherlands UNESCO, I want to give you 2 more examples, because when you start coming up with examples, you just cannot stop. So basically, I started from here. We start with the traveling merchant, because trading is a long tradition in the Netherlands. And we have this traveling merchant who has traveled all around Middle East and Europe and the north coast of Africa. And he has come across the windmills in Mykonos, Greece. And here we introduce a problem where it connects the windmills with sinusoidal function. It gives details of the windmills. Obviously, as we know, we are talking about circular motion. So within this problem, we introduce a sinusoidal function, which has to be found by the students. And then the problem moves on to the Netherlands, where we introduce again the windmills of the Netherlands, and this way we connect the countries with each other, because the windmills have started from Persia, Iran, and then they moved all over Europe, and they came to the Netherlands, where they were improved and they were used as wind pumps. And again, we have a problem with the rate of flow of water drained by the windmills. So here we can introduce ICH in differentiation problems, rate of flow, and so on. And finally, my last example, it comes in the form of the very famous pottery, the Delft pottery from the Netherlands, and we introduced the way that this pottery was exported all over Europe, and within a problem that has to do with the pottery and introduces information when the pottery was mostly famous and how it would go around Europe. We ask a question which is probability. We ask students to actually calculate the probability of having a broken piece within the pottery after the transportation. So to conclude, I want to say that introducing ICH in math education is very important. And it has to do with the fact that when we actually get the students involved in the whole process of making these films and getting to know ICH and coming up with projects, it helps them very much to learn better, learn easier, as well as and second point is that problem solving enables students to acquire new knowledge, to develop critical thinking, to observe, to understand, to analyze, to recognize useful information. And basically SCH offers an endless list of subjects. The source is bottomless. We can have so many examples to use and have a great lot of plethora of very original and innovative problems to solve. So obviously, this approach helps students come closer to their older relatives, to their parents, grandparents, and stimulate students' curiosity and help them in their life as well to develop a sense of self-worth, to appreciate their background more and appreciate mathematics more at the same time. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olympia, for your enthusiastic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, let's move on now to the presentation of Zeno Van Der Salle from the Netherlands.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm very happy to do a presentation on polderen this afternoon. And I do it the polder way, so I'm working together with Marieke. So she will present the slides and I can talk through you to what it is about. Our ICH project is on polderen. And polderen you go to the next slide, is defined as a skill. And this skill underlies the decision-making process in the Netherlands. And if you look at the different domains of ICH, I think it's best suitable in the social practices. Quick example, short example, what is Polderen like? Last year, our Minister of Education decided to cancel the final examinations of the primary schools of primary education and the secondary education. But this decision, he didn't make it on his own. He consulted different parties involved in the educational process, such as labor unions, student councils, teachers. And after hearing their opinions, he consulted everybody. They can share what is the best thing to do. And at the end, he decided to cancel the examinations of the secondary schools. And that's the process what is mostly like what Polderen is. It's brain work for support through dialogue. And I will talk a little bit more about what Polderen is looking backward. So I can go to the next slide, backgrounds of Polderen. And Polderen is a country, Netherlands is a country of consultation and cooperation. No single group has an absolute majority. And in that set situation, the various groups need to talk to each other in order to get things done. So this is basically why we have Polderen in the Netherlands. The term Polderen has its roots in the collaboration process for the water levels in the polders, in English, the reclaimed lands. With different interests, the outcome is always a consensus. And the outcome is controlled by the regional water authorities. So if someone disagrees or does something else, the authority can put a charge or punish a person with a penalty. So the outcome, what's ahead, must all be accepted. And if anyone don't agree to it, then maybe they can be punished in the past. But why is Polderen a typical Dutch thing? I use this theory of Hofstede, who defines different dimensions to look at cultures in countries, which he defines 5 elements. And I use that to look at what is now typical Dutch. And we go to the next slide. I've summarized it in 3 in a nutshell. We have 17 million opinions, so our country could be very individualistic. People don't like top-down decisions, so our power distance is very low. And society at large is more consensus-oriented, which means that we are very feminine. But there is a little bit of contradiction in this 3 things about the Dutch culture in a nutshell. We are all about ourselves, but we want to take care of someone else. And that's why where Polderen is coming in, we want to arrange things that everybody agrees on, and everybody will be able to do that. So as a result of this, our country is very institutionalized. By law, the society must be fully informed and consulted in the decision-making process. So that is why Polderen is typical Dutch, is the way we work and live in our country. But why do I want this thing, what is very integrated in our culture, to do it with a project on ICH? So the next slide, please. Teaching with ICH will make the next generation more aware of this cultural element and will safeguard this important skill. And that is very important because I think we have one big challenge ahead. And what it says over here, more representative citizens in dialogue meetings, not only the happy few. I think if students know what it is of how the decision-making works in the Netherlands, and they get involved on very young age, they can also be involved when they get older in these dialogue meetings themselves. So this process would be more representative than it is right now. And as a result of that, there could be a better acceptance of the outcomes in the society. And the example I earlier mentioned, for the Minister of Education decided to cancel the final examinations for the secondary schools, it was not all accepted by all people in the society. And that's why I think if people know how to get involved in dialogue meetings, it could be better acceptance as a whole in the society. So what did I do with my students? That's the next slide. I basically did the following thing. I made two simulations with my students to simulate dialogue meetings with them. The first one was on a dialogue meeting of the national labor market. And the issue or topic to discuss was the height of the minimum wage. And there were three parties involved. Also, the labor union was a party with shared interest. The other one was the employers organization. And the last one were some Crown members. So students have to take a role, and then they have to talk and discuss and agree. And finally, they have to come an outcome where they all agreed on. And what's typical Dutch, people can share their opinion, people will listen to that opinion, and they can share their opinion as well. So it's overall, they can share opinions, and at the end, there will be support for the outcome and will be accepted. So people will, of the students will experience the way of decision making in the Netherlands. And the second one that I used on a project was a dialogue meeting of the local environment committee. And the topic in this meeting was the design of a sports park in a neighborhood. And again, I defined 6 interest groups, and they all have to talk and think, what do we want in this sports park for our community or neighborhood? And each student has a role, or a couple students has a role, and they will talk and talk, share opinions, and in the end, they have to come to an agreement which they all accept. So my approach with teaching with ICH is making use of simulations in classes and doing role playing what it is right now. So that is my thing, what I did with ICH, making Polder more aware of our students. Next slide, please. And what is our current status right now? Now, Polderen has been registered on the Dutch Knowledge Center of ICH. And you see at the left an image of our registration. And in the end, we will look at the website to see how it is presented. And my goal is for the coming years that you would like to be listed on the inventory with the community of secondary schools behind it. So we as a school, as a community, will safeguard Polderen in the Netherlands to achieve the challenges what I just mentioned. Can you go to the website, please? And you can see in a moment, I hope, or not, just waiting.
Can you see it, Zeno? I can see it, but...
No, I can't see, only the slide still, so...
Je moet eerst je iPhone ontgrendelen. Okay.
Just one sec. And this is the page where I documented Polderen. And if you can go to the pictures and show us something that people can see what Polderen is like in the Netherlands. It's talking even at the keukentafel. So at dinner, our Dutch children or learners will talk with their parents to get agreement on what they want as a family to decide. Can you go to the first one? That's the main thing. I think that is the share as well. But you can, the first picture, I think that's the important one. This is what it looked like. People sitting there talking, sharing their opinions, and at the end, they all have to agree on the outcome. So that is polderen, and I want students to be more involved in future generations. So that is my share with you from the Netherlands on the ICH projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zeno. This was so insightful, and thanking you for bringing the polder model to an international level, talking until you find a solution. Thank you.
Support. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Zeno. And thank you so much also, of course, Olympia. Your two insights from your day-to-day practice as teachers on the ground has made it so clear the impact of this project and the sustainability also of this project, as Olympia pointed out, and you too, Zeno, that you doing it, you find out that the opportunities actually are endless. And that is what makes this all so fascinating and promising for the future. So thank you both very much for presenting your pilot projects. And now I'm happy to again give the floor to Elena Drobna, the program specialist, the regional officer for Europe in the Living Heritage entity at UNESCO, responsible for this project, to share with us the presentation of some materials. Please, Helena, may I give you the floor again?
Thank you very much, Kathleen. It's coming. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
We can
see
it and hear you properly. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for Zeno and Olympia, because I think they have shown you that the opportunities and possibilities for integrating living heritage are really endless, and it can go from tradition related to some food like the truffles. It can go through embroidery traditions up to a very different element like the polder model. Now, we were thinking about okay, so we have trained people, we have implemented pilot project, but what would be helpful for teachers is actually, regardless of which elements they have, we would like to give them some kind of methodology or some kind of materials that they could use to implement their projects in their schools around their own living heritage. So based on the 10 pilot projects, and I have to say that we have absolutely excellent 10 school teams. On the picture, you see one of them. This is the Spanish school team, but there was Zeno, there was Olympia, and I saw that many others have joined us for this session. We have collected a wealth of experiences, and they helped us to get the materials together. We have selected two facilitators. It was Vanessa Agiles and Tamara Nikolic-Deric, who have worked with us on these projects and helped us to come up with the materials. So we have created a web page, which is unfortunately not ready yet, but it's coming for the 29th. And on this web page, you will find resources for teachers. What are the things teachers may need if they want to develop a project? I have already mentioned this pilot survey, but what I didn't tell you is that at the end, we have identified 10 small case studies, which will give you inspiration or show you how across the ASP.NET schools in Europe, teachers are already implementing living heritage elements within their curricula. And here I have just pictured a couple of them, and you can see if we zoom on it that we have flamenco, which are the red ladies. We have marbles in physics education. We have a very interesting project about using crafts and the methodology of implementing producing a product as a logic for programming. So there is a wealth of little pilot projects or little examples that can help you to get some inspiration about how to do things. And now we are getting to the core of this whole thing, which is the resource kit for teachers. It was designed by teachers for teachers, and it has 4 main elements. One of them is the practical guidebook, which will provide you with a methodology, with basic information, etc. Then you have the 10 case studies, which are actually demonstrating the 10 pilot projects that we have implemented within this project. So you will find Olympia's project as well as Zeno's. We have a set of practical tools, but we are in the beginning. So we are hoping, as you can see, I noted a living document. So we hope that we will get more practical tools as the time will go. You will share with us things that helped you implement your projects in schools, and we will complete this and let this grow as we will advance. And we have the short films that 2 of them you could see just before. I will share with you, if you are interested, later on this presentation, and the little things that are in yellow are direct links. The materials are already available in English and French, and we hope that they will be translated in other languages so that teachers will be able to use them at the local level. So the practical guidebook, this is the table I just copied for you, the table of contents, to give you an idea what will you find there. First of all, there is an introductory chapter which is introducing to you the key concepts that are used in this resource kit. And we are, can you hear me? Up.
Yes, we can hear
sorry,
you.
sorry. Up.
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
I have to go back to my key concept. Sorry. Okay.
Can see you and hear you.
Perfect.
Yes.
Sorry. First of all, it's key concepts that are used in the resource kit so that it's very clear what is intangible heritage. When we are talking about intangible heritage, very often we see that people imagine, for example, any dance as intangible cultural heritage, or radio, or films, etc., which is not quite true. And here we provide you with the exact definition what is living heritage or intangible cultural heritage according to the 2003 convention. What are we considering as living heritage within this context? Then a short explanation how to use these resource kits, because it's developed for all teachers, and some of you have experience, some of you are very new to this issue. So here you will see that you can actually jump from one thing to the other, read it as a book, but you can also start with the films to have a better idea on what are we talking about, and then go step by step, backwards or forwards as you wish. So you do not need to read it linearly, and that's why some things might sound as repeated, but this is the reason behind it. Then there is a chapter which will give you the argument why teach and learn with living heritage. And what we have seen that often teachers have ideas, but actually the school directors are not quite convinced, their colleagues are not quite convinced. Sometimes even the parents don't know what these things are. So here you will find a series of arguments that you can really use. Why should you teach with living heritage? Some of them you have heard from Olympia and Zeno, some of them in the previous presentations, but you will find here a very nice list of arguments on how teaching with living heritage is beneficial for children and the communities at large. Here is a little bit more about understanding the concept of living heritage. And we try to keep the materials as short as possible so that you don't have a 300 pages book. And therefore, we are providing links to all kinds of other tools, including tools developed by the living heritage entities, such as the Dive into Living Heritage, which is a very nice visual tool that I know that Zeno has used with his students, etc. And then we are coming to the core of of this this guidebook, which is the step-by-step approach to integrating living heritage in education. And this is not related to one concrete element, it's just a generic approach that is explaining you, if you want to integrate living heritage of your students, of your communities in your teaching, how could you go about it? From understanding the context, selecting the living heritage element with students, with teachers, with parents, there are many different methods, learning more about the element, designing your lessons plan and teaching, documenting and sharing your experience, which is very important because you are basically serving as a role model, as a pilot project for the others. You are collecting experience which might be very helpful for the others. And then evaluating the results, and then you can restart from step one again. So this is the guidebook. The 10 case studies are, as I already mentioned, documenting the projects that we have developed under this project, the pilot project. And we have one in Austria, in Belgium, Cyprus, Czechia, Estonia. Here on the right-hand side, you see the Polder model in economics, social studies, and history classes in the Netherlands that you just heard about from Zeno. And here you can see, for example, the Polish example. We have also an example from Greece, Lithuania, Poland, and Spain. Here I would like to at least try to show you one of them, so that you see what will you find in the case studies, because the idea is to give you a little bit more information about what you can do and how you can do in practical terms. So the booklet will provide you with the theoretical approach step by step. And here you will see what are the concrete things that they found on the ground when they were following this methodology. So this is an example from Greece, which included rebetiko, a traditional dance from Greece. You have the age of students, which we indicated in years because depending on the school systems, the type of school is different. So it's primary and secondary schools, but we put the age. You have a short description here, and then you have listed the learning objectives, because this is something that teachers might find very useful. Then we have preparation. What did the teachers do in order to prepare the sessions? Then you have the description of the activity and the learning outcomes. So all the case studies are built in the same ways, and they were provided by the teachers. They will then just adapt it so that they are all in the same format. But this is what you can find in the case studies. And now, sorry, I'm a little bit, I was here, okay. So these are the 10 case studies that are available. As you have seen, the information provided in these case studies is much more detailed than the one which we have from the survey, because these are the pilot projects which were implemented by our teachers. So we had much more information available. And then there are these practical tools, which are meant as you print them and you can run with them, basically. So you want a discussion with your colleague teachers on how to integrate an element in education, you can take the practical tool 2, which is, the link didn't work, sorry, which is providing links. No, okay, I apologize, but we can come to it here. Up. No, now I closed it. No. Up. We will take it this way. This is the web page. And if you go to the practical tools, you can go here. And this is how it looks like. This is about what can you do as activities? How can you link an element to your subject that you are teaching? So here, for example, you have language. What can you teach? You can read songs, texts, stories, legends. You can write poems.
I'm sorry, Elena. I think we do not see the link. We are still
you don't see the page.
No, we do
Oh,
not
sorry.
see the page. No. On the language, we still see the practical tools where you click the English and French, and then we are still seeing that. Just for your information.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. I will try to.
You have to try to share again. So you have to leave the former presentation and then log in again.
This is what I'm doing exactly. And let's see if you see it. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Yeah, language.
Yes, this is how the practical tool looks like. And here we have language, mathematics, economy, sciences, history. So here are examples of, you are a science teacher, you would like to do something. So what are the options? What did they do? And here you can find some ideas on what are the possibilities. We have developed so far 3 practical tools, but there are many more that could be developed further. We have certainly a PowerPoint presentation that we are planning to develop on introducing living heritage to students, because that's something that teachers asked us for. That could come, but then of course you can share with us your ideas or your tools that you are using in your sessions that could be helpful for others. Can you see it now? Can you see the screen with the practical tools?
No, we see you. At least I see you.
Okay, that's wonderful, but it would be better.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, but it would be much better if you could see it at the screen. Sorry. Okay, up. Is it okay now?
Now we see the, we see the
practical tools.
The practical tools, yes.
Perfect. So this is it. Again, everything is available is in English and French. And this is one of the places where the document will certainly grow. And then there are the 3 films. As you might have seen, the films are available in 2 different versions. We have the long version, which was the Belgium film, which explains with a narrative the whole story in more detail. And we have also developed a social media version, which is under 1 minute, and it's basically just a very short look into it. The materials are all available in English and French, some of them in Spanish. We even have Korean subtitles, and we have, I think, German subtitles for the Austrian one. So this is also something that is and will be enriched as the time goes. Well, that's it from my side right now. I would just like to mention one thing, that we have also developed a clearinghouse on living heritage and education, which is basically a place on the webpage where you can find all kinds of different information on teaching and learning with living heritage worldwide. And this project and these case studies will be presented also on the clearinghouse. It's not on yet, if I'm not mistaken, but it should be online in the coming days. So I think Susanna or some of my colleagues will let us know, and on the 29th I think it will be online. So thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions when it comes to the kit, I'm happy to reply. Thank you very much, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Susanna. It's so inspiring to hear about the experiences of these 10 case studies, and how promising it is to already see how this is going to be a worldwide project, connecting people, teachers, young people, future generations, of seeing the richness of our intangible cultural heritage. And also very impressive to see the very practical information and the hands-on tools that are already in the resource kit. And this is also promising. So thank you for sharing this with us. I think that we still have some time for questions. Marike, I know that you have been watching the questions that are in the chat, but I can also imagine that amongst the speakers, Zeno, Olympia, Susanna, you have questions, Elena, you have questions to one another. So if there are questions, just feel free to ask them. And I have a question myself also, but let me see first of all what your questions are. Please, who can I give the floor for a question?
Why don't you start with your question, Kathleen?
Yes, so I will start with my question. I've been so impressed by all your experiences, and it's also positive. But I can imagine that there have been hurdles and obstacles and things you had to learn to move forward. So basically, I wanted to ask Zeno and Olympia, what was the most difficult thing you had to overcome to reach the success you have reached? And what has been your most important learning point during the process so far? Olympia, may I ask you to answer this question? And then Zeno. Olympia.
Yes. Okay, so basically, since I was matching age with mathematics, I had so many colleagues doubting the possibility of doing so. And at the same time, I had a lot of pressure to cover all the syllabus I was supposed to cover. So it is true that when you actually include extracurriculum activities and excursions in order to make the videos, you have to find time. But to be honest, when you start creating your own little library of material and you watch it grow and grow, and you know that the next time you're going to come across the same content of mathematics, you will have something ready to use. You're full of optimism because you realize that what you are actually creating is not something that is gonna help you once. It's something that it will continue to help you for years to come, and it is way bigger than just maths. And I'm not underestimating the importance of maths, obviously, because I'm a math teacher and I love maths, but teaching some life lessons through maths makes everything so much more important and so much more worthy. So the time I have to dedicate in order to create what I'm using, the material, is worth it, totally.
Thank you so much. So doubting colleagues is one of the hurdles you had to take. Very interesting, and especially to see how you have convinced them and got them on board also. But I can imagine what you're sharing with us. Zeno, what are your negative experiences in this very promising project? What have you learned?
I won't say negative, but I think that the hardest part of all is the organization behind an activity. That is time consuming, and maybe it's all dismotivating a little bit, but demotivating, I think. But at the end, the learning objective from the students were make it all great again. So it's always a little bit on the preparation phase. It's hard work, but at the end, it's, yeah, I think happy to do it at the end for them. Yeah. And also because after the first project, I already launched the second project. So if you go on, you can make everything happen with this subject that I chose.
Very interesting, Zeno. You're absolutely right. I should not use the word negative. It's not negative to overcome hurdles. Yeah. On the contrary, it is part of this learning process. And as you were pointing out, that it is a time-consuming thing to get everything in place with the organization, to get it all organized, to make it happen and make it this rich learning process for children. And the more you do it, the easier it might become. And the wonderful thing is of the participation of the EU here also, together with UNESCO, is that we can link all these promising experiences and overcome eventual hurdles together. That's what makes it also so exciting. So
can I add something to
please,
that?
Please feel free.
Because if I look ahead, I also arranged an excursion to a local government. So this simulation can take place at their institute or building. So it would be more realistic than doing it at school. And I think that in the Netherlands, it's all about participation. And this project can make the connection between young students and the government even better. So this is what I learned and what I will do the coming years as well.
Fantastic. It's a great example to go to the place where what you are presenting is really happening. Like I saw the baking of the pea cookies, the pea-like bread. You can do it in a real bakery. It's make the experience even more intense for the students. So thank you for sharing these examples. And I'm personally really looking forward to what we will hear and see on the 29th of June. And also looking forward to what will come the next years, how this very inspiring project will bring together teachers, students, and show to all of us the richness of diversity and the richness of intergenerational connections, and how important it is to be aware of them as a world community, as it defines the way we relate, it defines the way we learn and how we can communicate. So thank you very much. I see a question in the chat, if I'm right. But Marike, can I give you the floor for the questions? We have a little bit more time. So please, Marike, go ahead.
Thank you. I will read the question aloud. I will turn on my camera so that you can see who's talking. The question raised in the chat is, dear colleagues, I understand that your work under the project was very interesting, but at the same time, hard work. I would like to know where and how we teachers can find the products that you have done in order to use them in our work. That's maybe a question which refers to the place in UNESCO's website where we can find all these informations once they have been officially published. And I see Helena quickly posting a link underneath.
I have already shared the link and the materials are all already available. But I mean, this is a kind of technical session that we are having here, and the web page is not ready yet. So you can download already the documents and they're all there, but it's not beautiful yet. It's not finalized. It will be beautiful for the 29th, I hope. So, but the materials are there and you are most than welcome to use them. Yeah, there's one little thing, if I may just say.
Please go ahead, Helena.
To add to the things that we discussed, how you can bring young students to other places. One of the things that we have seen, for example, in the Austrian project, is that children themselves and teachers themselves are bearers, which means that they themselves can present an element. And we had in the Austrian project a young boy who was a practitioner himself. So he did the introduction to the other students, and it was not done by the adults, but the kid went on and presented the project to his peers, and it was excellent. It has had an excellent feedback from students and from teachers. So you can rely also on children and their families and teachers who are also bearers themselves. Thank you.
What I like so much about this project is that it refers to our pride, and the pride for a student to present it herself or himself, that you can do that and that you can show what you are proud of in your culture. what you get for your day-to-day life from your ancestors is so valuable. If I'm right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Marika, I see that there are no more questions in the chat. And I just wanted to make sure that indeed there are no more questions. Can you see that properly, Marika?
Yes, I can. There are no more questions. No, people are still saying thank you, so that's not a question. No, I see no more questions. Also, not in the live stream on YouTube.
But I see that Olympia was adding something. Am I right, or am I looking?
Yeah, I was just.
Please, Olympia, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that the math and science examples, as well as many others who I didn't have the time, to present, are gonna be on the website that we share with the Comenius Campus School in Belgium, and it's gonna be running next month as well, if that is helpful.
That is indeed very helpful, Olympia. Thank you so much. Thank you. So when there are no more questions, I think that I will come to the closure of this very, very inspiring afternoon. And I want to thank all who have been speaking during this afternoon. Susanna, Dorota, Helena, Zeno, Olympia, all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And if one thing is sure, it is that this is really a sustainable project. And once we discover that we can go on and on learning this way, connecting so many important issues of today's challenges and richnesses with information, with richness from our ancestors, it will open so many doors and it will strengthen so many people. And that is exactly what we need today. So I'm really looking forward to what will happen next. First of all, the next meetings, Wednesday, German language. Please don't forget to inform your German-speaking colleagues and friends. And then, of course, the other events, and then the 29th, the presentation. And then we will see what will happen over the years on this promising project. I want to thank you all for this afternoon, but I also want to thank you all at the EU office, all of you, teachers, students, wherever, to make this happen and make this learning journey a journey that will go on for a long time, enriching our new generations with the wisdom of our ancestors, former generations. So thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to continue this journey with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.